The outgoing French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu has said he will brief President Macron on the outcome of his discussions with party leaders on ways to form a new government. Let's show you the scene live in Paris. Grey skies over the Arc de Triomphe. We've been watching the live shot from Paris over the last few hours. Mr. Cornu, a couple of hours ago, gave a statement talking about today's deadline set by President Macron to try to resolve this big political crisis that doesn't seem to end. Now, Sébastien Lecornu, we can remind you, announced his shock resignation on Monday, and that was just 26 days into his job, hours after he'd named his cabinet. And all of this, as you can imagine, an immense political headache for President Emmanuel Macron. Sébastien Lecornu is the third Prime Minister to reign since December last year. As France grapples with yet more instability, some parties are calling for fresh elections and for President Macron to go. Well, speaking in the last hour, the outgoing Prime Minister said there was a willingness to finalise a budget by the end of the year, adding that the possible dissolution of Parliament was becoming, in his words, more remote.
We really have to get out of this situation. This will to find a budget by the 31st of December by this year forces us to move forwards and to have some municipal elections that take place in the best circumstances. The left, the Republican left, I've spoken to them to see what concessions they are willing to make so that we can get out of this situation. And before the end of this year, we really need to get our house in order.
Our Paris correspondent Hugh Schofield explained what Sébastien Lecornu was hoping to accomplish.
Well, what he was trying to do there was put a positive spin on what is happening, implying that an agreement is within reach. But as in all these situations, you can't take what he says at face value. I mean, he's trying to create an effect with what he says. He wants to reassure the markets internationally that things are stable, are stabilising. He wants to protect President Macron, who's under increasing attack, and he wants to just generally create a momentum towards a deal and therefore perhaps force parties who might otherwise be reluctant to finally come on board. But what's going to happen, we just don't know. He's seeing the socialists now, and I think that's the key meeting, because in all of this, there's a sense that things are shifting leftwards towards the socialist camp. They're in a position of relative power now. Macron and Lecornu having failed to form a sort of stable government for over a year now with the centre and the centre-right. There's this feeling that the socialists should be given a go. But what is their demand? The talk here this morning is of a suspension of the famous pension reform. And that's certainly been a long-standing demand of the whole of the left, but including the Socialist Party, the sort of moderate bit of the left. But is that really acceptable to Macron, to the markets, to the centrists in general? I mean, we'll have to see it. And I mean, if there is to be a solution to all of this that does not involve a dissolution of Parliament, it'll have to be probably around some give towards the left on the issue of pensions, but falling short of an absolute suspension of that key reform. If that key reform of the pensions is dropped as part of a deal, then the reaction of the markets will be massive. They see it as a symbolic sign of France's ability to reform. And if at the end of the day, this thing which took so many years of struggle to get through is just dropped, then that'll be a very, very negative sign indeed. So we just don't know. We'll have to wait till the end of the day.
And Hugh, just remind us how they got into this position and why there has been such difficulty trying to pass a budget.
Well, I mean, the background is ground we've gone over many times. The election of July 2024, which produced this three-way house in Parliament, which means that there's no stable government that can possibly emerge. And we've had government after government, Prime Minister after Prime Minister, failing to keep a government. They've just about managed to get a budget through at the turn of this last year. Now time is upon us to find a budget for next year. But as always, it is about questions of spending and raising money that the country and politicians divide, and finding some kind of consensus on how the country's money should be shared out and raised is what is causing such a political headache now.